In a democracy, the poor will have more power than the rich, because there are more of them, and the will of the majority is supreme. It is clearly better that property should be private, but the use of it common. And the special business of the legislator is to create in man this benevolent disposition. A tragedy is a representation of an action that is whole and complete and of a certain magnitude. A whole is what has a beginning and middle and end. He who can be, and therefore is, another's, and he who participates in reason enough to apprehend, but not to have, is a slave by nature. Excellence, then, is a state concerned with choice, lying in a mean, relative to us, this being determined by reason and in the way in which the man of practical wisdom would determine it. The generality of men are naturally apt to be swayed by fear rather than reverence, and to refrain from evil rather because of the punishment that it brings than because of its own foulness. Inferiors revolt in order that they may be equal, and equals that they may be superior. Such is the state of mind which creates revolutions. Our judgments when we are pleased and friendly are not the same as when we are pained and hostile. No one would choose a friendless existence on condition of having all the other things in the world. In constructing the plot and working it out with the proper diction, the poet should place the scene, as far as possible, before his eyes in this way, seeing everything with the utmost vividness, as if he were a spectator of the action. He will discover what is in keeping with it, and be most unlikely to overlook inconsistencies. Persuasion is clearly a sort of demonstration, since we are most fully persuaded when we consider a thing to have been demonstrated. For as the eyes of bats are to the blaze of day, so is the reason in our soul to the things which are by nature most evident of all. But if nothing but soul, or in soul mind, is qualified to count, it is impossible for there to be time. Unless there is soul, but only that of which time is an attribute, that is if change can exist without soul. Rhetoric may be defined as the faculty of observing in any given case the available means of persuasion. This is not a function of any other art. A statement is persuasive and credible either because it is directly self-evident or because it appears to be proved from other statements that are so. Long-lived persons have one or two lines which extend through the whole hand. Short-lived persons have two lines not extending through the whole hand. Whether if soul do not exist time would exist or not, is a question that may fairly be asked. For if there cannot be someone to count, there cannot be anything that can be counted. So that evidently there cannot be number, for a number is either what has been, or what can be, counted. Some animals utter a loud cry, some are silent, and others have a voice, which in some cases may be expressed by a word, in others, it cannot. There are also noisy animals and silent animals, musical and unmusical kinds, but they are mostly noisy about the breeding season. The eyes of some persons are large, others small, and others of a moderate size. The last mentioned are the best. And some eyes are projecting, some deep-set, and some moderate, and those which are deep-set have the most acute vision. In all animals the middle position is a sign of the best disposition. The wise man does not expose himself needlessly to danger, since there are few things for which he cares sufficiently. But he is willing, in great crises, to give even his life, knowing that under certain conditions it is not worthwhile to live. The moral virtues, then, are produced in us neither by nature nor against nature. Nature, indeed, prepares in us the ground for their reception, but their complete formation is the product of habit. The beginning of reform is not so much to equalize property as to train the noble sort of nature's not to desire more, and to prevent the lower from getting more. Whether if soul do not exist time would exist or not, is a question that may fairly be asked, for if there cannot be someone to count, there cannot be anything that can be counted, so that evidently there cannot be number, for a number is either what has been, or what can be, counted. The aim of art is to represent not the outward appearance of things, but their inward significance. Anybody can become angry, that is easy, but to be angry with the right person and to the right degree and at the right time and for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not within everybody's power and is not easy. I count him braver who overcomes his desires than him who conquers his enemies, for the hardest victory is over self. The ultimate value of life depends upon awareness and the power of contemplation rather than upon mere survival. Mothers are fonder than fathers of their children because they are more certain they are their own. Suffering becomes beautiful when anyone bears great calamities with cheerfulness, not through insensibility but through greatness of mind. He who is unable to live in society, or who has no need because he is sufficient for himself, must be either a beast or a god. In making a speech one must study 3 points. First, the means of producing persuasion. Second, the language. Third, the proper arrangement of the various parts of the speech. To attain any assured knowledge about the soul is one of the most difficult things in the world. The state comes into existence for the sake of life and continues to exist for the sake of good life. In poverty and other misfortunes of life, true friends are a sure refuge. The young they keep out of mischief. To the old they are a comfort and aid in their weakness, and those in the prime of life they incite to noble deeds. Bring your desires down to your present means, increase them only when your increased means permit. Those who excel in virtue have the best right of all to rebel, but then they are of all men the least inclined to do so. Politicians also have no leisure, because they are always aiming at something beyond political life itself, power and glory, or happiness. Men acquire a particular quality by constantly acting in a particular way. Some kinds of animals burrow in the ground, others do not. Some animals are nocturnal, as the owl and the bat, others use the hours of daylight. There are tame animals and wild animals. Man and the mule are always tame, the leopard and the wolf are invariably wild, and others, as the elephant, are easily tamed. The true and the approximately true are apprehended by the same faculty. It may also be noted that men have a sufficient natural instinct for what is true, and usually do arrive at the truth. Hence the man who makes a good guess at truth is likely to make a good guess at probabilities.